pleasure of introducing our speakers, Aksharamurti and Rushi Sunak. As you will hear more about shortly, Akshata and Rishi, both members of the class of 2006, met right here at the GSB. Throughout their lives and careers, they have been dedicated leaders in the private and public spheres. Akshata has spent over a decade investing in early-stage, consumer-focused British companies and currently leads the office of Aksharamurti and Rishi Sunak, which promotes initiatives to drive positive impact in the UK. She is a trustee of her alma mater, Claremont McKenna College, and sits on the board of the Victoria and Albert Museum. Rishi has spent the last decade in the UK government, where he was Chancellor of the Exchequer before becoming the country's 57th Prime Minister. He was the first British Asian Prime Minister and the youngest person to take on the role in 200 years. He is currently a Member of Parliament and serves as the William C. Edwards Distinguished Visiting Fellow at the Hoover Institution. Together, they have journeyed from Stanford to 10 Downing Street and beyond. Please join me in welcoming Aksharamurti and Rishi Sunak.
Okay, Dean DiMarzo, thank you for your very kind words of introduction and for giving us the honour of joining you all today. Now, we've all just rightly applauded the faculty and staff for their brilliant work and your friends and family for their love and support. But last, and by no means least, class of 25, you made it. So congratulations. It's time to give yourselves a massive round of applause.
Now, we remember our own ceremonies so well. It was actually the first time our parents met. So it's wonderful to return in slightly less stressful circumstances. Stanford was transformational for us. I came here from India via Los Angeles, and Rishi from the UK. It opened our eyes to a whole new way of thinking, and it's informed everything we've done since. It also changed the course of our lives, because this is literally where we met, in the Schwab courtyard, to be precise. Now, who needs admissions algorithms when, as our then admissions director, Derek Bolton, who's here with us today, has since told us he could see we were meant to be together before we had even met, just from reading our admissions essays alone. So thank you, Stanford. 20 years and 2 daughters later, forget about being the best business school in the world, you're an even better matchmaking service. And now here we are, so honored to be the first GSB couple to do a commencement speech together. Rishi and I approach things quite differently. So let's just say the process of preparing for today has been just a little bit revealing. I've heard couples therapy can be quite painful, but upon reflection, that might just have been the easier option. But on a more serious note, it's also been incredibly rewarding, because it's allowed us, the both of us, to reflect on who we are and how our experience here at the GSB has played such an important role in shaping our life together.
And our different approaches have meant that we could push each other's thinking to become something better, sharper, deeper. We are each other's force multipliers. And today, we'd like to share 3 lessons that we've learned from our own 2-person tea group, if you will, which we would have found helpful sitting where you are today. Now, the first lesson is what I've learned from Akshata about the false comfort of data alone. Now, I'm a numbers guy, which was in fact a very helpful way of bonding with my father-in-law, Narayana. Now, he's a pioneer of the Indian software industry, founded the company Infosys, and he lives by the saying, "In God we trust, everyone else must bring data to the table." And I couldn't agree more. That deep respect for data and analysis has given me the edge in every role that I've had since leaving the GSB. So, well done for surviving data and decisions. But that depth of understanding will be relevant for everything else that you do, the full extent of which will be actually impossible for you to comprehend right now. For example, little did I know that sitting in that class, the techniques that I learnt there would help me 15 years later to understand SIR models, R numbers, exponential growth curves, as our government grappled with a once-in-a-century pandemic. In 2021, after months of lockdowns, the new Omicron variant of COVID emerged in South Africa and started to spike in the United Kingdom. I was Chancellor of the Exchequer at the time, and I was actually here on a trip, visiting with CEOs, investors, Stanford faculty. I got a panicked call in the middle of the night, and I had to cut my trip short, jump on a plane, fly back to Westminster, where I found that there was huge pressure for another national lockdown. Now, I probably would have felt the same if it hadn't been for my understanding of data, which meant that I could interrogate what was really happening in South Africa, and that analysis raised questions for me. But, and it's a big but, that's only as far as it could take me. I used to find comfort in the idea that data could always provide a certain answer, black and white, was reassuring to me. But my wife pushed me to think differently. While I'm the quant in our relationship, Akshata is definitely the poet. From our early days together, I try and join her for runs around the loop as an excuse to spend more time with her. And we'd chat as we ran, or more accurately, she would try to run, I would try to chat. But as our relationship deepened, she'd encourage me to understand that without giving up my love of analysis, I also had to tune in and trust my intuition, born of experience and values, however uncomfortable it made me feel. You know, on reflection, I was seriously unfit and had all the wrong kit, so the running was pretty uncomfortable too. But Akshata helped me see that data can't look around corners. It can't make the decision for you. And through her confidence, I grew to trust my own instinct more too. And at that moment, back in December 21, as Omicron came to the UK, it took intuition and not a spreadsheet to argue strongly against the prevailing belief that we needed another national lockdown with all the serious consequences involved. It was a big call, but categorically the right one. And the reality is, as a leader, the only decisions that reach your desk are the difficult 50-50 ones. Because if a decision could be answered with data or analysis alone, someone else would have made it already. And nowhere is that more the case than when you're sitting behind the Prime Minister's desk at 10 Downing Street. So, here's the thing. As you progress in your own careers, learn to listen to your intuition with as much respect and rigor as you do the analysis. Because if you want to lead, it's not a question of data or intuition. You've got to get comfortable with both.
The second lesson is what I've learned from Rishi, and it's about the relationship between big idealistic dreams and small practical steps. I grew up in a country where the gulf between rich and poor was vast. I also grew up in a family where my parents inspired me to bring about widespread change, and I desperately wanted to be in their footsteps. In my Stanford essay, I spoke passionately about education, impact, and service. When I started here, my ideas had crystallized into what I call a form of die-hard idealism, and a quality which I perhaps naively